Today on the BlastCast, we talk about the atmospheric flight model, how we feel it should affect things, how we feel that it's going to change the nature of the game itself, and talk about a few other points this week on the BlastCast. Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another BlastCast. Of course, my name is Jarvis, and with me once again, as always, is my bastion of common sense, Lightning Dragon. This week, we want to discuss a little bit more about the flight model, as they've shown the atmospheric flight model is something that they're building out, and how the ramifications of that in the game, and what we feel about that overall, and kind of go into a little bit more deeply. And so, Lightning, do you have any thoughts on the subject?
Well, I'm sure you have the exact same opinion of me for most of this stuff, which, maybe make it not interesting at all. But, for obviously the very first and foremost thing, which I've said and you've said, probably not on recording, but you can't have two different control schemes. You can't have World War II flight simulator with aerodynamics and everything, and then have the same thing in space. I mean, if it's the exact same thing, it's the exact same thing. But if it's like Kerbal Space Program controls where you're maneuvering thrusters and things, and then you go down to the planet and you're flying an atmosphere, you don't fly the same way. So you'd have to have different button combinations, and it'd just be a big hot mess.
Yeah, it kind of would be. And why I'm showing Elite Dangerous in the background here is because one of the things that Elite does really well, and they now have, of course, you can land on planets and whatnot. While they don't have atmospheres, they do have gravity and effects and things like that. But what Elite does really well is the controls are very consistent, and they're very good. Whether or not you enjoy the flight model, whether or not that's your thing, the thing about Elite is that you never feel like you're fighting the controls. You always feel like you're just trying to get the most out of your ship, and that's kind of how it should be. And when he's talking about, the idea that you need to have consistency is okay. In atmosphere, the ideal way to fly would be pitch and roll, especially because now we're dealing with aircraft with wings and things like that. And we're going to put aside...
With the lift properties.
Yeah, with lift properties. We're going to put aside the big ones just for now. We're just going to deal with the fighters and the vanguards and stuff like that for now. Things with wings, because how this is important is that basically the physiological nature of the human body, pulling up or having the force push you back or pushing you down, is something the body can handle better than, say, lateral or diving. And because of that, pitch and roll would be the preferred method of flight. And on top of that, there's no reason that when someone will go into space that this physiological limitation of the human body would change just because you're in 0G. You're starting from a different point, but that limitation would also be there. You'd still want to do pitch and roll. And also, people would not design a ship to, say, do lateral strafing in space and then pitch and roll in atmosphere. It doesn't make sense. No one would design a vehicle that has a completely different control scheme or a different focus once you hit space as opposed to atmosphere. Consistency is important for really mastering a craft, and that would be kind of awkward. Like, oh, I hit air and suddenly I'm now...
I had to go grab the secondary joystick.
Yeah,
let me just type in this button combination here. In fact, here, let me type on my keyboard here. Okay, and that's okay. There we go. All right, I've switched over to flight mode here.
Exactly.
Oh crap! I've lost control and I'm in a flat spin. Oh, I'm dead. Permanent death. I mean, there's that aspect of it. Well, actually, it was on YouTube, so I actually started playing a video. That's fine. I paused it though. You shouldn't have heard anything.
That was skillful. So the thing is about being consistent. So when I look at the video, and I showed it in the opening, and you've all seen it by now if you've been on this channel. What I was noticing that I did like is that I did see some indications that they were doing some pitching when they were turning, and I've flown Cessnas myself, and so
real airplanes, by the way.
Real airplanes, So I'm familiar with the idea that rudder is not your ideal way of making big turns.
Oh God, no.
So it's the whole idea of lateral strafing. So it's one of those things that I think that they need to make sure that they do absolutely right, and we're still don't have a proper G-force model. I know it's coming; it has to be coming because they said they're going to be modeling the oxygen levels in the blood of the body of the character.
I've said it multiple times that the current G-force model is stupid. There was I don't remember when it was. It was early days of Arena Commander, and it was really hard to black out. You know, the ships flew okay; they weren't great, but it was really hard to black out. Then they're like, "Oh, the game played too slow, so we've doubled the speed of everything. Its acceleration is up." You know, braking is up. Everything is like double the thing, and you blacked out instantly. Oh, I turned left slightly. Oh, I passed out. Well, the ships aren't going that fast.
No, no, they're not. And but we can get a lot more response by going to lateral strafing in the game, a lot less blackout, which is not correct. It's actually a very harmful thing in the course of battle to juke hard left and hard left, hard right, like that. The kind of strafing would actually cause damage to the human body. So when they're looking at the way these small craft handle, and I think it's important that this is something that they get nailed down. And then you have to deal with the fact that we have the large craft. Like I own a Starfarer and a couple other larger ships. I don't know if the reclaimers can be atmospheric, but if it isn't, it will be atmospheric about 5 seconds for plummet.
It might be on the extreme limit. It actually
Yeah,
might not be because I believe like the Starfarer is one of the largest. But you're skipping over two rather important ships that I feel need coverage, and
sure.
that is the Freelancer and the Cutlass. You
Yeah,
look at those, and they don't have wings, not really. They have engine pods on the outside, though. If you look at like the Cutlass, for example, it has a very like tight nose area, so it's like submarine-ish, where it's round. Uh, and then you have the little canards at the front. Now they're rather thick, but they look almost wing-like if you're looking at them. They have rounded
yeah.
leading edges, and so you might get a lifting body effect with ships like the Cutlass or the Freelancer, but and I think a lot of it's going to come from the main engine. So your engines might actually be pointing slightly down while also backwards to give you a little bit additional thrust upwards.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to be dealing with the fact that these ships, when they come in, are gonna have very limited maneuverability, and I like that distinction. I really do like that distinction, and I think also this finally lays to bed the whole argument people have been having, like, why these ships have wings? Why do they have wings? Well, now you can't complain about that anymore. Oh, sorry, it's the internet. You
And
can
it's an
complain about that.
interesting it's a good game mechanic too, because let's say for example there is a well, let's keep to the small ships. Let's say
Yeah,
it's Cutlass size, right?
yeah,
And the ship is made by whoever, and it's phenomenal in space, right? It can land on planets and stuff, but it is like the space superiority fighter. That's what it's designed to do. It can do like almost any role that's combat related in space.
yeah.
But because of its design, it's designed for space, and then as an afterthought, the engineers went, "Oh, this is small enough. We better put some like retro thrusters and certain aerodynamic properties on it." But they're designed into the hull, so it's more of a lifting body effect. So it doesn't handle very well at all in atmosphere.
It's like the
So
space shuttle landing.
yeah, it's a flying brick basically. So when you take your amazing fighter that's designed for space and you go down to a planet because you want to like get some missions or you want to refuel because it's cheaper there, there's a good chance that someone in a Hornet or a Gladiator, or not a Gladiator, the Gladius, can come up there and completely wreck your shit because your ship is not designed in any way for atmospheric combat. And I think that's a good way that they can balance when you start getting up into the sizes. For example, the Starfarer is probably, ridiculously well. Hopefully, they make it hard. Like, if you want to attack a Starfarer with fighters, I hope the Starfarer can win because it's designed for combat. Almost all the ships are. So it's got superior shields. It has probably superior armor. It definitely has superior firepower. So if you're attacking this in space, the odds are it's going to kick your ass, or it's going to make it not worth the effort. But on this flip side, if you're taking something that's big and cumbersome and you're landing on a planet, it'd be fodder for jets and things, or maybe not jets, but just fighter planes in general. So there's a good balance they can do here with things that are kind of good in both ground, or not ground, ground and space, in atmosphere and space, as opposed to things that are just really good in space, and you don't really want to land them on planets unless you have like a lot of really valuable cargo in the case of like a cargo ship.
In those large ships, without actually having a lift body or wings, think how much easier it's going to be to literally destroy them by just taking out an engine or two or
Oh
whatnot,
yeah.
because they're basically VTOLs at that point in time. You take out an engine, and that thing just might just be done. It just might
Yeah,
just go straight to
if
the.
you were doing some concentrated firepower on like the one of the nacelle areas where those retro thrusters are in the Starfarer,
Yeah.
I mean, eventually it would be so damaged that it would no longer work, and it has 50% of its thrust gone, and I need to take a drink.
Well, they had talked about that as you go further down into the atmosphere, they're having modeling atmospheric density. So also, if you're coming in too fast, that can actually damage your vehicle. And I'm really excited about that. I played a lot of IL-2 for a long, long time. I played IL-2 on in PvP servers, and that was my thing. I did it day in, day out. And if you were to dive too steep or you got too much speed maneuvered, you could literally rip the wings right off your plane. And it was knowing how far you could push your vehicle to get everything you could get out of it, and right to the point that you're hearing the wood groan and things like that. Like, that if you just turn one more degree, the wings are gonna go. And that's really an excellent thing in the sense of, like, a really great pilot can take it to that edge, and the guy who's not so confident or doesn't know his vehicle as well, you're going to have the advantage over him because you can take that right to the edge where he doesn't have that knowledge, and he trying to follow you in those maneuvers might go too tight and might actually take himself out. And so that's great. I'm glad about the atmospheric density. I'm glad about the wings. I am so excited about this concept. I'm so excited to see this coming in. And to me, this gives me even greater confidence of the statement where they said, we're going to rip the Band-Aid off. And I really do believe that that was referring to the flight model in a large part, because once we get rid of the predetermined values and things that aren't calculated, including thrust values, your turn rates, your hit points, your all that stuff. It's arbitrary at the moment. It's been plugged into the game by developers, and once all that goes into a system with actual physical calculations and unified numbers across the game, and if they go into a physiologically correct flight model, I think we're going to see a massive change. And seeing the atmosphere come into it gave me a sense of hope that that's really the direction that they're going. They just haven't gotten it to that point yet because they don't have the components in. I think that's some of that components is coming in. I think in 2.5 is what they said, which I think right now is on Evocati, and this week we might see it in the PTU. And if I do get into it, I will be over that for you guys. I'll put up video after video after video, let you know how the patches are coming, like I did last time. But I don't know yet. I haven't received any emails or anything.
If I remember, part of the early campaign was they wanted it to be a skill-based game.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
being able to know what your ship can and can't do, and being able to ride that line, that is a skill. That is you learning what you can and can't do with your choice of vehicle, and that's it. It's a skill, as opposed to something where I have X amount of hit points, I have X amount of accuracy, and I have X amount of aim time. I just
Press
I do
tab
the
to target.
math. Yeah, and you just click when all the numbers line up, World of Tanks style or something, and that's not what Star Citizen's supposed to be, and I hope they don't make it that. Will it mean that I'm not as good of a player as other people? Probably. I think I'm pretty average as far as gaming goes, but most people are pretty average, right? You're only going to have a few really hardcore dedicated people, and for the most part, you're probably not going to run into them,
Yeah,
especially if you're talking about PvP.
yeah. Well, unless you're playing with me, but
Yeah, I might be better than you in the beginning, but as soon as you just start, getting your hands on things, I'll just get left behind.
we would PvP matches together where basically I remember there was a couple of guys that split off the group that come after me, and the guys in their team typed says, "You're going after him." They said, "Good luck." And the guys from the other team said that, and then I took both of them out. It's like, "Yep, told you so." So yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that once I get into a game, I really just I dig into it. I dig into it just viciously. But the thing is these days I have so many games that I like to play. I don't have that one that's grabbed me yet. No Man's Sky is coming out in a week, and that might really be something
No
I could dig in.
DMCA, Sony, or else I'll fuck you in the ass. Not the
Okay.
good kind either, and not you.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, well, they've already got leaked footage on that in the web, and I'm avoiding that like the plague because I want to see I want to get my first impressions on
I
that.
don't want
But
to be like negative Nancy, but I don't think it's going to be the next coming of video games.
no, it's
I
gonna be
think it's going
fun.
to be. I think it's going to be a decent game, and I think it's going to be like, oh hey, now that the game is out, can we have regular multiplayer? Can we play with our friends? Because that is what you see the most. It's the most. The number one Q&A question on anything related to No Man's Sky is, can I play with my friends? And the answer is, oh well, not really. Well,
You
you can or you can't. There
you
is no
probably
maybe.
you probably would both have to play your game until you get to the center of the universe, and then just meet there, and then pick a direction.
But I
Because
don't think it's even like that. I think, as we go off way off Star Citizen topic here, this is a regular conversation where we usually have, but I think the online component is a type of DRM. That's what it sounds like to me.
uh,
So eventually we might be able to play with other people, but I think initially it's only so you can log onto the servers and they can, make sure you have a legitimate copy of the game
yeah,
and maybe download certain updates. I think
yeah,
that's what it is.
yeah. Well, that's true. But anyway, guys,
Oh, my screen turned off.
well, fix it. Anyway,
I
so anyway,
can't.
anyway, guys, I want to get your thoughts on this. If you can leave your comments down below. As far as flight model is concerned, are you interested in seeing a more physiologically correct flight model come in with modeled G-forces that are more physiologically correct? I can't. That's a word I'm going to stumble over it once in a while. But anyway,
Biologically, physically correct.
exactly. So anyway,
Bioships. They are confirmed.
bioships. This is Xeon, most likely. So basically, let us know what you think about the potential change in the flight model. What do you feel about atmospheric flight? I mean, are you afraid now to take your big ships down, knowing that they may be flying bricks? I mean, has it made you rethink the ships that you have in your lineup currently? Have you, maybe said, I'm going to go ahead and melt this for this instead? I mean, what kind of impact has this had on you as a backer of the game? Has it changed your perception across the board on a lot of different things?
Or do you not care because you have a Super Hornet, which is by hands down probably one of the best ships in the game until they super nerf it.
Super nerfed.
Super Hornet gets super nerfed.
Well, I have so many fighters and stuff to pick from. I don't care what they do to it. I can always
I have one fighter, and it's LTI, and I don't care if I have to fly it. Whatever, I'll fly it. But my dream goal here is I totally forgot about bringing this up is I want to fly bigger ships. That is what I want to do, and a lot of people do that too. They want to do that.
Yeah.
And the thing is though, we need to be able to be the captain and pay for a crew because, I mean, we need a fucking timer is what we need. Because if we were like at 20 minutes right now, I'd be like, next time we're going to talk about it. Because I was just thinking, they're like, what time is it?
No, let's put it this way. A simple way I thought of it that they should do this thing is they should offer a package called Star Citizen Lite. You pay half the cost. You don't get a pilot's license. You can run around as FPS or hire yourself out as crew members. People who want to try the game at a reduced risk can jump into the game and just be hired hands for other players. Boom, we got multi-crew set up for people. They can find other players who can play with them.
That'd be another idea, and even like a trial thing. Like, let's say every 6 months you get a code that's just like it's activated, right? And you can hand the code out. It's good for like up to 10 people, and they can download the game and play for free for like 3 days or something, right?
Yeah, but they have to be your servants.
Whatever. I mean, just make it so that you can, have friends join, kind of like a free, like Steam free weekend.
Yeah.
Except for you send out a code, they enter it and go, oh, okay, well, your account is reactivated, your pilot's license is renewed for 3 days or whatever, and when you log in, and they could even be nice and have it where it's actually 3 days of game time. So I got really busy on Sunday and I couldn't play. Oh well, there goes one of your days.
The same way that we rent something in REC. So
exactly.
Only when you log in
as
an
account. Nice because then you'd actually have 3 full days of game, and I think you'd get a lot more out of it that way. So I hope they have something like that in the future.
Yeah, here's hoping. But guys, anyway, that was some of our thoughts and some other rambling thoughts
Yeah,
of all sorts
rambling
of different
thoughts. I didn't
things.
even finish my thought. We'll have to
Oh,
finish that later.
okay. Well,
I, I mean,
you write it
I've
down or whatever.
I've smashed on the need to have large ships enough. It's just it really depends on like how big of a ship is going to be worth it to run. I mean, I'm not going to want to fly like carriers and stuff.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Well,
But
it's expense. I mean, I have a lot of large ships, but when the day the game launches, I'm not going to be taking my reclaimer out and things like that because I'm going to be taking out my freelancer because
you'll be
or
taking the
whatnot.
reclaimer out to grab all the ships that are wrecked and going nom 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 nom.
Well, yeah, that too. I mean, after everyone gets done crashing into each other for the initial launch, I probably will be doing that. But that aside, let's say that everything goes smoothly and there isn't a bunch of chunks floating around out in space. I'll be taking a solo ship to build up capital to then finance the larger ships to take them out. And so any of you out there who have those larger ships. That's something that you have to keep in mind is that you may have an Idris or you may have whatever, but you're probably going to want to have a smaller ship if you don't, just to get ramped up for the money to run that big thing. So, unless you plan on buying a lot of UEC through the website,
Like if
and
you have a job that's got ridiculous income.
exactly. In that case, we do love you as a backer.
Yeah, please stick around. Support the game for us people that no longer want to support it.
I want to support it. You mean
I'm tired of giving them money. I want the game to play. That's what I want.
well, I understand that aspect, but but still, yeah, we both give it enough as far as that is concerned. But anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the podcast, BlastCast, whatever we're calling it now.
Random rambling cast.
We could almost call this an extra cast. Anyway,
Oh, almost.
almost. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening tonight, and we'll catch you next week. As I said, if the PTU comes out, if I get into it, I'll be all over it. I'll give you guys patch by patch update, let you know what I think. All right, guys, thanks for listening.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. And we're going to be discussing the German magazine that came out, PC Games Extended, and how they basically laid out a roadmap for us for the upcoming Star Citizen patches. And there was a lot of really good information in here.
I don't know about you, but I could ramble on for about an hour just talking about